Lovely, lovely. Okay, let's go. Um, Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first panel of this year's, how are we pronouncing it? AuFiCon? Audio Fiction Convention, to give it its proper name. If you don't know me, my name is Hero. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the writer and sort of principal producer at Monstrous Productions. We make cozy, gay, speculative fiction. So Monstrous Agonies and Travelling Light are our two shows. And I'm joined today for the co-writers room, crafting scripts collaboratively. And we've got some gorgeous, beautiful panelists with us today. So I'll let them introduce them if you want to let us know your name, your pronouns, and just a little bit about what you do.
Okay, which order are we going in?
We'll go Theo, Marisa, Anna.
Okay. Hi, I'm Theo. I am the co-writer and creator of the Homeward Foundation, which is a queer, trans-friendly horror podcast, which is an adaptation of it's inspired by the novel Dracula. It's inspired as a sequel. Yeah, that's me. I've also written for IP, so primarily Doctor Who, um, audio drama. So that's something as well I can talk about here. And yeah, that's me. I'm going to show that now. I use he, him pronouns.
Hi everyone, my name is Marisa. I'm the owner of Hemlock Creek Productions. I edit audio for podcasts as well as video games and film. You might know me from the horror audio drama Liars and Leeches. I've also done work in the past with Rusty Quill and Fool and Scholar Productions. In the video game sphere, you might know me from The Last of Us remakes and Mafia: The Old Country. Um, I think that's about it.
Hi, I am Anna. I run Knave of Hearts, so I have written for uh, the horror audio drama, horror sci-fi Before the Tone, and I am the co-writer and co-creator of A Somewhat Peculiar Frog, as well as writing for some anthologies like Hubris, Of the Sword, Someone Dies in This Elevator, and most recently, This Address Does Not Exist.
Lovely, lovely to have you. So we'll just kick off getting straight to it, I think. So do you want to tell us a bit more about the nature of your collaborative work? So do you work, it's just you and one other person and you write your scripts together? Are you part of a larger team? What's been your experience? And this time, if we go Marissa, Anna, Theo?
Sure. I, at this point, have worked on, I think, a couple dozen audio dramas, but I've only written one, which is Liars and Leeches. I, when creating that show, I was the person that came up with the stories, the ideas, the characters, the outline, but I am really, really terrible at writing dialogue. So I hired a script writer, his name is KJ Scott, to basically take this pretty detailed outline I made, but turn it into a workable script. I also personally, as someone that's more of an audio engineer than a writer, I think it's really important to have the post production people in the room when the script is being written. So our sound designer Melissa Pons was also actively contributing to the script. Things like, we're going to sound design this part so we don't have to have the narrator describe the scene, or maybe we need some narration here, things like that. So basically, it was the three of us that were creating the script for this show. A little bit of input from our composer as well, Nico. Um, yeah.
Um, for my stuff, I before the tone I was the sole writer, but I knew I wasn't going to be doing the audio side, other than a little bit of acting, and so I had to keep in mind like how am I communicating to my future sound designer, how am I communicating to my future actors a lot. And for a somewhat peculiar frog, it is completely co-written, so it's 4 episodes. I wrote 2 of them. My writing partner wrote 2 of them, and we did all of the outlining together, and we did all of the editing together to make sure it was cohesive. I don't think I've worked with more than one. That's not true. Uh, and then I have done a one-off episode, my collaboration with Englewood After Dark, where I was working with two different co-writers, the two creators of that show, which was also very interesting and a different writing method where we're all kind of just writing on the same document at once.
Cool. And then in my case, so Homewood is co-written by myself and Georgia, but we don't handle any of the other aspects really. We produce it, we write it, but we have a sound engineer and designer, we have a director, um, who do, and we also have a script editor who, whilst isn't like directly collaborating with us, they are also involved in helping us tighten what we already have planned. So it's kind of more like a dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure what we've laid out in the outline is what comes across in the script. So it's not quite the same collaboration as myself and Georgia. In terms of the Big Finish stuff, it varies from project to project. Sometimes you're writing on your own in a box set with other writers, but you're not necessarily collaborating with them, but they may have an ending that you need to follow on from or a beginning that you're starting for them. So you might have to chat there. Um, and with these things, the script editor tends to, in terms of Big Finish stuff, they tend to weave the narrative. So they kind of let you know what needs to happen story beat wise. So you can make pitch a really fun idea to do something, but they're like, oh, we'll like that. Let's put that at the beginning of the box set instead of the end, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's a really interesting process, like how collaboration can change from project to project. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah. That actually leads quite nicely into my next question, which is how your actual process of collaboration, let's say on your current project, rather than having to outline everything that that you've worked on. But yeah, what does it really look like? Do you so when I collaborate with my co-creator Matt on Traveling Light, we talk it all out and then I write it all basically. Like he's very much a co-creator, but he's not the co-writer. And so I'm wondering how you, yeah, how you actually do it in terms of who does what bit first and the sort of the nuts and bolts of it. So since you touched on that at the end of your answer there, Theo, we'll start with you. And then go Anna Marissa. I'm trying to shake up the order, but I think I'm forgetting who's gone when.
That's cool. I mean, Homewood's probably the best one to ask because whilst Big Finish is really interesting in the different ways they kind of do it in their own regimental way, Homewood was really nice because it was the first time, because myself and Georgia had been friends for a long time and did like, I think we'll touch on it later, but like how we became collaborators. But in terms of our process with Homewood, so for example, we're writing season 2, it was very much a case of writing down everything we wanted to happen. So kind of like not even an outline at this point, more of a like beat by beat, what are we thinking will happen? Then in our case, we've gone to our script editor and said, right, this is what we want to happen. Let's mesh this out. And it's become like a big, like, I think we spent 8 hours on Zoom at one point. Like, just, it was crazy. It was a crazy time, but it's worth it because it means that you know where you're going. And then at the moment, how it's working, because I'm full time in my day job, where Georgia is not. She's freelance, so she's doing like the bulk of like the skeleton work of the writing, and then I'll go in and tighten bits here and there. Or if there's a scene that I'm like, oh, actually, I think I've got this scene. Georgia's like, I'll go ham and go do that. So then we'll come back and she'll be the same. There'll be characters she's more au fait with than I am. So like that's how we collaborate. It's a bit more fluid. And then once we have like a first draft, we'll tighten it a bit more. We'll show it to Kat, our script editor, and she'll go in and say, well, these notes you gave me don't necessarily tie up with this. However, I prefer this, or this needs changing, or whatever. And we'll have a lot of chat about it. And then we usually tend to do 3 drafts that way until we have a really tight end draft that we're all super happy with before we reach out to um, everyone say, right, we're going to record this now, which is actually terrifying. It's like, oh no, we've been looking at this for so long. So yeah, that's kind of how it worked on Homeward for season 1 and what we're happening currently for season 2 as well.
Cool. I forgot who I said next. So Marisa,
Yeah,
Anna, just elbow your way in there.
I think I was supposed to be next. I'll focus on For a Somewhat Peculiar Frog. Yeah, so me and my co-creator James wanted to make this project, and uh, we ended up first doing a really lot of discussion as we were just figuring out what kind of show do we want to make. Like, I think he was the one who said something related to sci-fi frogs, and I was like, "You're not allowed to drop that. Actually, that's essential." Um, and a lot of figuring out, well, okay, what do we want to write? What are we interested in writing? We knew we were going to be doing the bulk of the acting and all of the editing. And so it was, well, what, he wanted to do the sound design, I wanted to do the dialogue editing. And I was like, well, what am I interested in doing for the edit? And something I was intrigued by was doing weird vocal effects. And like the frog who I play has a lot of very weird vocal effects. And he wanted to explore using interesting sound design elements. And so that was also something we wanted to work in. And then for the actual writing of it, first we would do a full outline. And there were some things like that definitely one of us would bring up and the other one wouldn't necessarily get, but it was like, okay, you're excited, so just run with it. Um, and so like an element of that became very important in the story was like it had a storytelling element where the characters are telling each other stories that I wanted to run with. And so we ended up I think I wrote episodes 2 and 3 and he wrote episodes 1 and 4. And so we would write the first two. We went over in depth. We each had a character who was like our baby, who was the one we were going to be acting. And so I would go through and say, no, the frog wouldn't phrase it like this. We have to change this. And for the storytelling episode in episode 2, he went through and was like, okay, no, we need to add more Matthew personality here, and stuff like that. And then, yeah, and so we'd go very heavy on the editing, which we'd go line by line, make sure it lined up with our outline, make sure we both understood what our responsibilities were to the overall story, and that ended up working out quite well. Um, and I think was a very sustainable way of going about the co-writing process. Um, and like the only different style of co-writing I've done was for that Englewood and Before the Tone crossover, where it was like all three of us were just on the document writing line by line, like, here, okay, you wrote what your character would say, I'm writing what my character would say. And that was incredibly fun. But
I
I
was going
don't
to
know if
say, it
it'd be
sounds like,
sustainable.
yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
almost like role playing at that point,
Yeah.
where you're sort of playing with each other while you're writing.
Yeah. And like we dip into each other's characters at some point.
Mhm.
Or not at some point, but like at some beats in the story. But like, yeah, it was very much we're just playing, we're talking, and we'd done a lot of outlining in advance, but uh, that was very fun. But I don't know if you could do that for like a 10 episode season.
Right.
Or maybe you could. I don't know. It could be pretty fun.
So I think for kind of the nitty-gritty of my process, it's kind of a little bit backwards. I feel like a lot of people know how to write for audio drama and then learn the audio production side. I went to school for audio production and then later was like, I want to try my hand at writing a story. Like I mentioned in my intro, I know that I'm not great at writing dialogue, but I think I'm decent at coming up with like story ideas. So I knew from the bat that I wanted to hire someone that could help take my ideas and create them into an actual script. So basically, what I did for the first season of Liars and Leeches, I typed up like this massive outline. I think it's like somewhere in the 30s number of pages. So there's an outline. Each character has their own bio as well. That's like a second document. And then I have, I guess, like a vision board, even though it's an audio medium, just of like, I think this is what this place would look like or what this character would look like. So I sent all of that to the scriptwriter, and basically they will come up with like a first draft based on my outline. I'll go through and kind of edit it, give my initial thoughts. And I think our scriptwriter also um, will give some ideas. I think more so for the second season because I hadn't finished the outline when we started working on it versus the first season where I had. Um, but basically, we get a working script done and then pass it off to our sound designer. And I think as someone that's worked editing audio for other people for audio dramas, something that's always really frustrated me is like we usually don't get the scripts or the audio until everything's actually recorded. So there'll be times where it's like, oh, this character was climbing here. It would be really cool to have like effort sounds of them climbing up this hill, but because everything's already recorded, like
Right.
we can't. So passing them off to our sound designer, Marisa, she just kind of goes through and like tears the scripts apart and is like, I think that this narration here is unnecessary, or I think doing this particular sound design or having this music here or something like that, it, makes sense. So really the script goes through the three of us before we even deal with like casting or anything like that. Um, and I think that's like the bulk of our process is just really making sure that it makes sense for like an audio medium. And then I forgot to mention her in my intro, but we had a script editor, Meg, for the first season, who then goes through after we've kind of ripped it all apart and just make sure, spelling, flow, everything like that works. So basically there have been four of us that create the actual script. And then I think for the second season, it's going to be like a pretty similar um, flow, but there's more idea bouncing around between me and the scriptwriter this season because the outline's still being worked on versus, like I said, the first season I'd finished the outline before I hired
Mm-hmm.
the scriptwriter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much our process.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also I like letting the voice actors um, give contributions as well to the script. So there have been a couple lines in Liars and Leeches that are improvised, or they're like, do you think the character would say this, or maybe let's try something else? And I try to be really open-minded because I consider myself to be somewhat of a writer. I'm definitely not an actor, so if they give a suggestion, I'm like, let's at least try it. And if I decide
Yeah,
to not use your take, that's fine. But
absolutely.
yeah, letting the voice actors give contributions has kind of changed the script somewhat too. Yeah.
Yeah. We most of our shows are single voice. Actually, both of our shows are single voice. But in Monstrous Agonies, we did have a couple of guest stars, including Dom from Mist Home. I forget the M's. I'm sorry, Dom. But
Mistome
they
Museum of Mystery, Morbidity, and Mortality, you
yes,
mean? That
perfect.
one?
Yes, that one. And Dom was playing this awful CEO character, sort of like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk type, and ad-libbed a vape hit in the middle of their script. And I was like, that is funnier than anything I could have possibly come up with myself. Yeah, sometimes you just got to let people be funnier than you in your own show. So we sort of touched on that there, I think, with Marissa. Sorry, yes, Marissa. Um, but um, sort of what led you to collaborating rather than going it alone. I'd like to hear a bit more of that from Theo and Anna. And Marissa, how did you find your collaborators? And both, like everybody, how did you find your collaborators? Um, yeah, we'll go Anna, Theo, Marissa.
Yeah, so for the Frogcast, for a somewhat peculiar frog, me and James were actually taking an audio editing class together. Like we'd both been interested in it, and I'd known him a little bit before then, but he knew I was in podcasting, and so as soon as this opportunity to work together and do it, partially for this class and partially for fun came up, he was like, I want to work with Anna. And I was like, I want to not have to write all 4 scripts. Um, so that ended up being how that approach worked. And it was my first time properly collaborating on a script, or, properly co-writing a script, I should say. And yeah, we ended up having a pretty good time. I definitely want to co-write with him more. We have talked about a different project that has gone through some outlining stages, and timing has just been an absolute enemy, so we haven't really worked on it for the past several months, but I still have hope that we will one day write another short, weird sci-fi thing. Um, and for that Englewood collaboration, Hannah is such a pleasure, and so is Dennis. But me and Hannah are friends, and so that was so fun doing the co-writing for, and like you said, it was like playing doing that style of script writing. Um, I have worked on one co-writing script where I did not get along with my co-writer. Um, and here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say. The outlining process, not my favorite. The co-plotting process, not my favorite because we were not in sync at all. But when it came down to it and actually writing the script, we were both able to be professional about it. And I think that's an interesting line that comes up in audio drama where because, or I should say an indie audio drama, where because it's such a passion driven field, a lot of people think you have to be friends with everybody or think you have to be like very casual or sometimes like a weird faux casual vibe comes in that is very uncomfortable for me. Um, but at the end of the day, you're working on a professional project and you can be coworkers and it's okay to be coworkers. I'd definitely be curious to hear from Marisa about like what it was like hiring a scriptwriter versus like it sounds like for me and for Theo it was like I know this person and want to pursue this creative area with them. So I'd be curious how that differs with a more professional I'm hiring this person uh, process.
I think I'm next to go. So, in terms of what's interesting with myself and Georgia is we were both writers in our own right before we started collaborating. So, I was working on audio drama for Big Finish solo. Georgia was a short story writer who had done some work for the names escape me. I will find it at some point in this. But she was doing some horror shorts, um, short stories which were narrated by her for another podcast. So that's how I found out about indie podcasting, just in general. But we honestly we met in the role play space on Tumblr many years ago. That's like one of the well, we didn't meet that way. We were playing D&D, but then we both realized that we were both role players, and it was like oh. And when I think like something which I think is really interesting to chat about is like that coming from like a fanfic and role play space is still writing. And with role play, it's like you're learning about being a collaborative writer from that beginning as well. Because you're like, oh, we're all sharing the space with somebody else to come up with things. And I think because we both come from that background, it was very easy for us to go, do you want to write something together? And it didn't feel like we were crossing over any sort of boundary because we knew what that was like already. Um, so it was obviously learning to it in a more professional way than just gonna reply to you on the Tumblr. Uh, you know, so it's like, well, we're gonna write an outline. We can't just pass it, and that sort of thing. And I think it was just a really nice experience because of that. I mean, we were doing that as friends, and then we were dating by the time we made Homeward. But that's still that kind of for us. It was such a fluid and very easy to get into that space. Um, and yeah, I mean, now I think quite a lot of the things that we have written together because we enjoy the process. Um, and the same with our script editor. We actually, Kat herself is also a writer in her own right who works Big Finish, and we were just like, oh, you just get it. You're just very good at. We're all on the same mind wavelength, and when that happens, you want to be in the same pool. You want to be like, oh well, I like working with this person. I want more excuses to work with this person. I have a job that would be really useful. Um, and we did hire Kat as well, but I think it was because we were already writers. I think the situation with Marisa was different in that way. Um, but yeah, no, I'm fascinated by the other way around with you, Marisa. That's really cool. Like I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, because I'm doing it the other way around of like, well, I need to hire my sound engineer, I need to hire my, like, in that way, because whilst I love audio, there's only so much I understand. I can, luckily, I've worked in it enough to be like, okay, I've had enough feedback to know I need to write this for the sound designers and stuff. But it's very different coming from the other way. So yeah, very cool. Um, yeah, that's me. I'll show that.
Yeah, so I think for me, yeah, the way that I kind of put my team together was a little bit different. I knew my sound designer beforehand because we'd worked on, I think at that point, 3 or 4 different projects together, like her freelancing for Hemlock Creek. So we already knew each other. I'd worked with the composer as well before when we both worked at Rusty Quill. The script editor was recommended to me by the composer, so we kind of had that. But the toughest part, I guess, was finding the script writer. And I kind of, honestly, I think I might have done it differently if I could do it again, but I kind of just threw a casting call out on Twitter back when Twitter was good and was like, okay, does anyone want to script write with me? And it was just kind of interesting because KJ Scott, who I ended up picking, actually had never worked on an audio drama before, but I asked everyone that applied to send in samples of their work, and they sent an excerpt of a book that they were writing, and it just, I really enjoyed it. So I kind of decided to make kind of a risky call of like, this person hasn't worked on audio drama, but me being a dialogue editor and sound designer for audio dramas, and Marisa being a sound designer for audio dramas, I was like, I know that we'll be able to um, like work together to create a workable script for audio drama. And I think I was really looking more for someone that like, I feel like it's weird to say just like that we vibed well together, but like I was much more concerned of finding someone that could write well and I got along with than them necessarily having audio drama qualifications, because I also feel like audio drama is such a like newer medium that limiting my search to just people that have worked on audio drama before seemed kind of a little limiting. So yeah, that's how I found the scriptwriter, and then same with all the voice actors too, the ones that kind of influenced the script too. It was just a cast call on Twitter, and hoping that the people that I picked worked well together, and thankfully, yeah, had a
Yeah.
good collaboration with all of them. But I think
Nice.
my method was definitely a little risky because I didn't quite know what I was doing. But I'm just glad that everyone that I found, we all worked well together.
I don't think I've met anyone in this space who has known confidently what they were doing while they were doing it, you know?
That's honestly super true because even like I went to school for audio editing and took all these classes and stuff. I never had a class in podcasting. That wasn't even an option when I was in college. So I was
Yeah.
just like, I've recorded narration for film. It's probably the same thing, right? And it's not, but it's like we'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. Exactly. Exactly. I wanted to, I have my list of questions here. That's why I'm looking down. But I want to skip down a little, because we've touched on this a couple of times, but when you're writing for like a big team of people, you're writing for people who either you're writing for your actors or you're writing for your sound engineers, or you're writing for other people who aren't writers, basically. And I find that really fascinating because I am the single voice in our single voice show, so I can write whatever I want, and I'm going to be doing all of the thing. I don't really have to think about anyone else. But I've recently been working on our new upcoming show, which is going to be a full cast thing with somebody else doing the sound. Um, and have had notes saying, you said he fell on the hearth rug. What does a hearth rug sound like, hero? And I'm like, I don't know. That's your job. And it's a really different thing. And yeah, and I'd love to hear um, how what do you think is the writer's job when it comes to writing for these collaborative projects? So that can be either your experience as a writer or as receiving scripts. What do you want your writers to be thinking about in their for that larger team. Yeah, we'll start with that, and we'll go Theo, Marisa, Anna.
Okay, it's an interesting one because I think realistically, if you're doing the same thing as you would for comic writing or script writing, visuals, but you're doing it for the ears, it sounds kind of self-explanatory, but I think you're trying to make sure that if someone reads your script, they can hear what it is that's happening. So when it has, like for example, the half rug suggestion, I think you could, like, I would probably write like fudding noise, like FX fudding noise, and then like in brackets, like person has fallen on a rug, or try to make it as clear, because I think with the script it's about being clear for people who don't know what they're looking at. Something that was touched on earlier about like making sure that if someone's running or climbing or doing something active, that the person is doing effort. Effort is the words. We love seeing effort in a script. It means that like, or actors hate us, but they've got to do it. It's like, yep, you're climbing, you're running away, you're running towards, you're running away again, you're running towards. Effort, please. Breathing. One of the best things I completely forgotten. I wrote a scene where two characters were talking, but one of them was given a cup of water and they had to drink the water and then they had to talk. And I went to a recording and I was just like, oh no, I'm gonna make this poor man drink water for like 4 takes, and he was just like, because he was like claiming he was dehydrated, so he had to really drink viciously. Like I made it, I felt so bad. But it's those things you kind of have to consider, like what are your actors doing? Is the script clear? Are you going to get the results you want from what you've written down? I think that's the important thing from my understanding as a writer. And I've got this wrong many times, and I will continue to get it wrong, and that's what drafts and editors are for. And to be like, oh, I missed that. How did I miss that? I should have put effort in. Why did I not put effort in? Gonna go back and put effort in. So yeah, just stuff like that. But I hope that helps. Yes, I'm gonna stop talking. Here it's something else.
So I think for me, I think it's hard to kind of answer the question like, generally the way you asked, but I'll just focus specifically on my show. But I think for me, my process was kind of like a weird bookend where it was like, I'm not actually doing the script writing, I'm doing the world building and then the like proofing and editing it to make sure that it flows well as an audio drama. So I think actually Theo mentioned earlier being into like playing D&D, and I feel like there's like a really heavy overlap. I play D&D too, of like people that play role-playing games and people that work in audio drama. So for me, my goal was almost to kind of approach my script writing in like a role-playing type of way where like I've created these characters, I've created the outline of what's going to be happening to them, created the setting, things like that. But effectively, I'm building a world that the scriptwriter can play in and kind of, look at my characters, look at my world and be like, okay, you wrote that this character does this here, but like, is that really match like their personality? Does it match, like kind of the person that you've created? So like that's kind of how I approached my writing, was in like a world building type way where I'm like, I'm just trying to give the scriptwriter as much information as possible that they can like go in and play in this world, and if they have ideas or suggestions on how to make it better based on what I've created, then that's great. And then on the other side of things, approaching it as an editor, because I did all of the dialogue editing, and I guess it would be like the actual directing with the voice actors. Um, I really wanted to focus on what story is the writing telling and what story is the audio telling, and how do I balance those two so I'm not either missing something or doubling up where like the narrator says like this character took a nervous breath and then there's an actual nervous breath. So I really focused heavily on, and the scriptwriter did as well, this like show don't tell type of mentality. where some things we did have to tell because a lot of Liars and Leeches specifically is like internal thoughts of the characters, but we focused on like how can we tell this story through sound design. Fee again mentioned efforts. In one of my other jobs, I edited efforts for a video game and literally spent like I think it was 2 or 3 weeks just editing breathing. So like I I really wanted to focus on like the nitty-gritty details of that, of like how can I pack, you know, a lot of emotion into just like a single breath that doesn't need to be narrated. How can I tell story with just these little sounds? So yeah, kind of a weird bookend where I didn't actually write the script, but was like, how can I create a world that we can play in and use sound design to enhance it?
Very cool. For me, very similar to some stuff that Theo brought up. I think that when you're writing a script that is going to be passed off to actors and passed off to sound designers, and especially if you are not also the director, it's all about clarity. This is your point of control. And like for Before the Tone, I am also the director, but for some one-offs I've written for Hubris, I haven't been, or I've been script editing for someone who isn't also the director. And so something I say a lot is like, this is your chance to pick the tone you want for this character. You get to pick the meaning of this line, otherwise the director or actor is going to pick it for you. And it might not be what you're going for. I think just it's a very nitty-gritty thing, but when it comes to your formatting, you want this to be easy to read. You want it to be easy for everyone working on it to find what their role is. So, for example, I do dialogue that an actor will read. That character's name is in all caps. So that means if a character lets out a startled breath that's part of the stage direction, their name is in all caps. While if their character is walking up a set of stairs, it is not. So they can immediately see in the script what they should be paying attention to. And like having something searchable for the sound designer, I always have SFX dash, and that was not in my first draft of script, so I had to go back and edit that into every single stage direction. And yeah, it's a lot about picking what you care about. And otherwise, I mean, it's like you said with the hearthrug. It's like, man, what a hearthrug sounds like is none of my business. You can go crazy. I have given the vaguest, most go wild instructions to my sound designers before, where I just say, listen, she's walking up a set of stairs and it's bad. And whatever that means to you, Katie, is what it means to me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets very, very broken up in the script as a result of that, where you want things to be clear for an editor. So like I remember in the season finale for Before the Tone, I have a character in an office building who starts out in one room, she leaves the room, she's going into a hallway, down a set of stairs, into a different room, and that meant every single time I had to break it up and go, okay, now we're interior, this is the space. Now we're interior, this is the space. And it's not something intuitive, because when you think of it, especially if you're coming from it as like a prose writer, that kind of nitty-gritty stuff is something you often want to leave out. But if you are writing a script and you want to be clear and communicate to the person who will have to be sound designing this, you have to always break it up and always think about, well, what are all the different things I'm actually asking here? Because I'm asking for 3 different environments.
Right.
Even though it's just a character walking and not even saying anything to anyone. Yeah, so it's a lot of clarity. I think in terms of like grammar, and your biggest thing is then you're talking to your voice actor. I'm a big fan of breaking up a sentence with period breaks, because if I want a sharp pause there, that's a great way to tell my actor that. It doesn't really matter if I'm now writing in fragments.
Mhm.
I like to use, you can use bolds or italics to indicate emphasis. Um, you can do a lot of uh, tonal stage direction. Like I'll sometimes put in something where it's like, oh yeah, she's a little too invested in this, or she's pretending to be okay, she's not, and stuff like that. Or imagine her looking around the room wildly, and even if it's something we can't hear, it's something that tells the actor this is the tone I'm going for. Um, and that's a lot of like if you're the only person writing and directing and acting and editing, you don't have to worry about it unless
Right.
it's a note for yourself because you know what you want.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, that has been a real
yeah,
learning curve for me because I'm always writing for myself. So I'm just like, whatever. You know what I mean. And then I give people my scripts and they go, "Why would I know what you mean? Uh, How could I possibly?" I'm just looking at the time there. We're just past 22. So I would love to hear some questions from our um, chat on Twitch. We'll probably start looking at those properly at about quarter two ish. Um, but I did want to highlight there, Anna. You mentioned script editing, so I wanted to hear a bit more about how editing differs from co-writing. And what does it entail? What's the different approach that takes? And Marissa and Theo, if you have anything to add on, absolutely go ham.
yeah. So I would say my favorite role in terms of working on audio drama is being a script editor. I love script editing. It's something I do a lot for Hubris. And the biggest difference between being a co-writer and being a script editor is the co-writer is there to help craft and change something, like create it. The script editor is there to take what the writer wants and make sure it's actually in the script. Um, and it's a very, very fun role as a result because you can read what's there, um, and say, okay, I wasn't clear on this. What do you want? What are you going for? What is the tone you want? This line, I could see this being read as sarcastic. Are you going for
Mhm.
sarcastic here? Um, as well as getting into all of the nitty gritty, making things clear for sound designers and actors and whatnot. Um, yeah. Uh, the script editor is a support role. And I think it's very much about finding the best elements of the script and making sure there's more of it, and making sure that if the writer is going for something and they're hitting just shy of the mark, maybe they are like practically there and it just needs to get a little bit of sparkle, that it can get there. um and it's a very collaborative uh thing that happens. Very collaborative process. I personally, my method, which you'll see in the podcast on air shortly, um, is to read through the first draft. If there's any issue points or things I want to make sure to focus on later, I'll highlight it or make a comment. And then me and the writer will go on a call and go through the script line by line. Because another thing is, this is not prose. This is not intended to be read on a screen. This is intended to be heard. So if you say a line out loud and it doesn't sound right, we stop and go over why doesn't it sound right? What is getting stuck here? Um, and as a result, it can be anything from really big changes where it's like, okay, we need to rework this whole scene to make it better, to okay, yeah, just a handful of these lines just need to flow better, and that's it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but I really love script editing, and I think it's a very important role. And I think it's a lot of people are scared of script editing because they're like, oh no, I don't want people to say bad things about my work. I don't want my work to get ripped apart. And I don't think that's a good practice in script editing. I think it's always about this is good. I want more of this good thing. And you can have like a script that has a really lot of problems or is, you know, fairly simple or something like that, and it still is gonna have good elements. Um, and it's really fun getting to bring them out. Yeah.
I'm good to just to jump in a little bit. I think I just wanted to touch on. I personally agree. I think script editing, I think, is like it's such a like I'm not joyless. That's the wrong because you do obviously get joy from it, but because you're not front and center, I think some people don't give enough credit to a script editor when they're involved, and we always to be like, Cat, we could not have made Homewood without Cat. We love Cat, shower all the praise on Cat, but then whenever we try to get Cat to come like that, Cat come join a live stream, we'll talk about the process, and she's like, oh no, but I didn't do anything. It's like you did loads, and I just want everyone who was a script editor. Who has ever felt like they don't do enough? They've done everything. You don't realize how valuable you are. And I hope I know that you get that praise from people you script edit because it's such a hard thing. I struggle to script edit for other people because I'm not very good at um like telling people that my view. I get a bit caught up in the script itself. So unless there's something like glaringly obvious in the script, I'm not quite seeing where this is going. Like I'm more of a like bigger picture editor. So I'm much better at reading something going, oh, okay, I don't know why this character did this now. Doesn't make any sense. And sometimes it just means that scene needs to be further around in the series, or maybe that scene doesn't need to exist at all. That's happened a couple of times. We've had the opposite where our script there's a really nice moment in season one where Jeremy and Maddie create a poem together while they're on the road, and that was like a last minute. It was like the last scene we ever wrote because Kat was like, "We kind of need them to be doing something a bit nice because they're having a really bad time." And I was like, "This is fair. This is fair." And we added it in last minute at Kat's suggestion. It's one of our favorite scenes in the whole thing. So, yeah, you gotta love the script editor. Give them all the love.
Yeah. Marissa, do you have anything to add, or?
Yeah, I think for me, my experience is a little bit different because the story was written in like a massive outline and then a scriptwriter worked on it. It our editing process is a little bit different because it was basically, I've written the outline, the script editor's written the script. It goes through like three, kind of four people to be edited. So the first one is me, but that I'm editing for content consistency, making sure that like what this character did makes sense and, actually, this particular setting is a little bit different. Can we change this thing? Stuff like that. Our sound designer then goes through and edits for making sure it's good, like to be formatted for audio drama. And I help in that way too, especially with like dialogue edits. And then we have kind of like a mini round where like I actually have a group of people that read the scripts that are just listeners and have no audio background. And they come in it completely fresh, which is super helpful. Having someone with like distance from the production being like, hey, this doesn't make sense, but like I've read the script like 10 15 times at this point, so it's like it might slip past me. And then the final one is having like the actual script editor that does like the polishing and making sure that scenes flow smoothly, spelling, stuff like that. So like I feel like my editing style is a little bit unconventional because I definitely don't do the nitty gritty spelling, stuff like that. I'm editing more for content. So I think like it kind of feels like I've split the editing between like three different people that I think could be one. And I think personally I have the philosophy that like the more eyes on stuff, the better. So I think that's worked for me, but I think it's kind of interesting hearing about, especially Anna, you working as a script editor, kind of doing like all those different roles together. It sounds like it would be difficult. So kudos.
So it is just gone 10 to. So we could take some questions from the chat. First, we've got Tesh16 says there are a lot of different ways to format scripts. When you're working with someone else, how do you make sure formatting is consistent? Do you decide on one format beforehand, edit it before recording, maybe combine the different formats of different writers? So just a sort of practical question. How do you keep it all looking the same? And yeah, whoever wants to answer, just jump in.
I'm happy if anyone else is. Oh, I mean, okay, that's cool. I'll jump in. I think for me, I was quite fortunate because Big Finish kind of give you a standard format for audio to use, which is basically BBC radio audio drama. So it's like Courier New at like 12 size font, and the character names go here and they're all in caps, and this is what the FX looks like, and this is what this looks like. I think because that's the only format I've ever known for writing audio drama, that's what I use. But sorry, my cat is now being let in the room. We might get to Percy, we'll see. He does like jumping on my desk. But George just apologise, he's the main rule. But yes, as I was saying, so we have a standard format that we've always used, but I think it is pretty handy to have like a standardized format that you both know. What we tended to do is after the fact, he's about to jump up. After the fact, he will. He's got a pain in the butt. You've been a pain. After the fact, we would tidy up bit anyway to give to other people. I'm sorry.
Never apologize for bonus cats.
Bonus cats. But yeah, answer is we use standardized format, and it helps us keep on track about what's being done. And then we should always being so cute. And then we format it to make sure that it's clear for everyone else who's reading it, because they usually work with the same sort of formatting. But I think, to be honest, as long as whoever you're working with is on the same wavelength, you can do it in whatever format you want. I think that would be my advice.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop talking and just stroke my cat for a bit.
He's beautiful. Anyone
What
wants
a
to chime in
good
on that one?
cat.
What a good cat.
So cute.
Such a good cat. I have a similar take to Theo. I use a kind of non-standard format that's a slight variation on like more of a film script format, but I just don't do the center alignment for names. And yeah, basically it boils down to if I'm working with someone and we're both writing scripts, I tell them, do you have a preferred format? Otherwise, I can tell you what my format is. And then when we're editing together, if anything's not in my format, I just change it to my format because I'm the editor.
You've gone mad with power. Marisa, anything to add?
Yeah, I think so for our show we use Final Draft, which is like a script writing software, so it kind of auto formats things for you. I hadn't heard of it, but the scriptwriter was like, "Yeah, like check this out." And I was like, "It looks nice, it looks polished, we'll do that, I guess." But I don't know, I found specifically with audio dramas that like the way people write scripts, at least the ones that I found that were published, they vary so widely. It just kind of seems like people, because audio drama doesn't really have a lot of set standards on like kind of the nitty gritty stuff like that. So we were like, we'll just kind of stick with film since that's more established. So I don't know, maybe someday there will be like audio drama formats, but at least with Final Draft kind of doing everything for you, that just seemed like the easiest way to go. So it wasn't really like I don't know. I don't want to say that we didn't think about it, but we also kind of think about it. We're just like, we'll just use Final Draft.
But if you're all using the same software and it has the same button, just all press the same button. Do you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Make it
that makes sense.
think about it less.
Yeah, I used Scrivener to my big full cast audio thing, and it just has a button that says BBC audio thing, and I was like, okay, let's do it that way. So we've got 5 minutes left, so this will be our last question from Quills and Paper. How do you handle sharing characters' backgrounds, quirks, and so on, and keeping them consistent when you're script writing together? And then somebody else was talking about, when you get little headcanons about your characters. And I just love to hear about like how you share those ideas and how you sort of keep them consistent. Have you ever had it where somebody's written something and you're like, I know I never said this out loud, but in my head, this person always wears purple, and now we have to edit that. So yeah, how do you keep those things consistent throughout everyone? And again, just dive in whenever the spirit moves you.
Um,
We,
Oh,
uh,
go ahead, Anna.
oh, okay.
Oh, the spirit is
Um,
rowdy.
the spirit is possessing anyone in sight. Um, but yeah, I think it's the kind of thing that comes up in plotting discussions most of the time. And if it doesn't come up then, it will come up in editing, where it's just a matter of, you're in the plotting, you're figuring out who these people are. And as you're figuring out who these people are, you're like, wait, I'm feeling a presence. It's this, we have to go with this. And um, eh, like I said, with working with James, we end up kind of saying, okay, I'm going to let you determine the vibes for this character, and I will just have to accept it, even though it's different than what's in my head, and vice versa. Like that definitely came up with um, the alleged potential other project that we were planning out, where that one has a little bit of a bigger cast, and I realized, okay, this character I feel super strongly about, so I want you to let me have final call on personality elements or like little backstory elements. But this person you have a lot of ideas for, so just run wild. And it's a lot of just chatting, making sure things that are really important to you are in uh, a document. Always have a document. My God, for the love of God, Montresor, have a document. You will say it out loud and you'll think you'll never forget, and that is a lie. Um, so if you care about something a lot and want to make sure it's going to be consistent for both of you, always write it down. And then it's just a matter of chatting and making sure that everyone does get to contribute and have their opinions end up in the story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Yeah, I can go. So I think um, specifically with keeping all the character stuff consistent, for me it was a little bit different having like me as a story creator and then a writer taking what I wrote. That's a little bit different than having a co-writer. So I think there was consistency there just from me being like the sole story creator, I guess. Um, but I think in the second season, where the scriptwriter is having a little bit more input on the story itself, I think that like Anna was saying, like having everything being documented, we have like effectively almost like a Wikipedia that has like information about the different characters, their likes, their dislikes, what they look like, stuff like that. So I think similar to what I was saying earlier about like world building, we built such a or at least I've tried to build such a world where like the characters are pretty well established that it's like pretty easy to refer back to those documents and figure out what those characters would do.
Mm.
That's really how the first season worked. But the second season, I think the more you write, the easier it gets because the second season's like we already know how these characters react under pressure, what they do when they're happy, their quirks, stuff like that. So I think really just having some sort of it doesn't have to be like a wiki like that, but just keeping like you know, some sort of massive document that has like information about the characters and their quirks just makes it so much easier because you can just refer back to it. We don't really like do stuff off the cuff anymore. Oh my god, so cute.
So beautiful. Absolutely stolen the show.
But yeah, I think that's all I've got. So if we want to hear from the cat on their
Yes.
opinions, yes.
Please tell us the cat's name first and foremost, and then their
so
opinions on collaborative script writing.
this is Percy. Okay, remember.
Percy.
Oh, Percival. Yes, 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 yes. Please get out of the way. He won't. So my opinion on this is, I think, again, coming from a place of being a role player for a long time, and also playing D&D and stuff like that, you naturally want to share memes and AUs and, or because we're working on a longer project as well, like Homewood is a 3 season plan. We're still writing season 2. We've been talking about Homewood for over a year and a half. To keep that fresh and exciting, we are still talking about things and sharing memes like, oh,
Mm.
this character's like this, isn't he? Or like, and stuff like that. And we have like a big pitch document as well, which has like timelines and family trees, because the world building, there is so much of it behind the scenes. Um, yeah, it's like just like yesterday, I think we saw a meme on TikTok of a hedgehog being given an apple and like really grumpy and then really happy. And like I think I showed it to Georgia and went, oh, it's Jeremy. And we were like, and it's just enough stuff like that. We're able to do that because we know these characters so well at this point. I do agree, like with Anna, like there are definitely characters that I feel a lot more in sync with, and Georgia feels more in sync with. So again, I feel like Georgia has the final call on certain characters. Um, like Tom is very much my character. If you've
Mm.
listened to Homewood, he is the celebrity trans man who does it alone and doesn't want to be there. And then you've got Jeremy, who's like the angry middle manager. He is Georgia loves him. He is Georgia's baby. So whenever you hear Jeremy speak at all, Georgia has created that man so in depthly. And I think it's stuff like that where it's so fun to continue to morph and shape these characters as we go on. So behind the scenes, we are very much still always talking about these characters. They're always interesting and exciting to us. And yeah, a new show will come on and we'll go, I wonder what a Homewood AU would look like with this. And it keeps things alive. It keeps things passionate with
Mm.
such a long running show. Um, but yes, just as long as you're keeping those head canons and things, and you make sure you're sharing them with your collaborator, keeping them somewhere safe that you can refer to them later, and be careful with your filing system. You might lose things. I've definitely lost things and gone, oh no, I had an
Oh.
idea for that, and that's gone. So, so yeah, thanks to my brain. But yeah, that's us. I hope that's exciting.
Yeah.
The cat has decided to stop jumping on me, so I think it was a good around chat.
Lovely. So that takes us to coming up on 5 past. So we are done. But if you want to just go around real quick and let people know where they can find you. So I'm Hero Owen again from Monstrous Productions. You can find us at monstrousproductions.org. Sudden doubt, what is our website? Or Monstrous Productions on any social media, pretty much. So, yep, just sign off as you will.
I don't mind quickly going. So I'm Theo Trethewey, so FIOTRETHEWEY, because I'm trans and Cornish. Apparently, that makes for a really difficult name. If you want to find out more about the Homewood Foundation, we are the Homewood Foundation on all of our socials, whether it's the Homewood Foundation podcast or just Homewood Foundation. You should be able to find us anywhere, Tumblr, Instagram, Blue Sky. Um, and yeah, and you can find myself or Georgia Cook, who is our co-writer as well, in any of the products we do under our names. They're very visible and very annoying online. So do come find us.
My name is Marisa Ewing-Moody. You can find me mostly with Hemlock Creek stuff. It's hemlockcreekprod.com or Hem Creek Prod on most social medias. I am found usually on social media with the name either like the Sassy Composer or Sassy Composer, so you can find me around there. And then you can also find Liars and Leeches, liarsandleeches.com, or just wherever you get your podcasts. I'm around. I'm on social media too much. You can probably find me.
And my name is Anna Stein, and you can find my shows on knaveofhearts.com. or Knave of Hearts AD on Tumblr and technically Twitter, but I haven't logged in a long time, so don't get your hopes up there for new information. And you can find my podcasts on your podcatcher of choice, except for Apple Podcasts, because it won't let me make an account, at Before the Tone and A Somewhat Peculiar Frog.
Lovely. That's us then. I'm going to sit patiently while a beautiful moderator shunts us off the stream. So